Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome back to a best of 3 series of top level StarCraft 2. Now I'm not gonna lie, I am really excited for this series because it's a series between two of my absolute personal favorite pro gamers. And I know they're channel favorites as well, and I know a lot of you enjoy watching their games, but usually they don't participate in a whole lot of online tournaments, and because of that I can't cast nearly as many of their games as I would like to. So here we go, game number 1, we find ourselves on Simulacrum and spawning here in the top left-hand corner of the map, playing with the blue Protoss probes. We have the strongest player from the United States of America, and his nickname is Neeb. Or apparently in this particular case, Neeblet. Some of his accounts are called Neeblet, some of them are Neeb. Generally speaking, he goes by the name of Neeb, so I guess that's what I will be going off of in this series as well. His opponent playing with the red Zerg drones in the opposite corner of the map. Well, he's certainly the strongest player from Europe, but I was just about to say that, and then I realized, well, you know what? This guy is actually considered to be the strongest player in StarCraft 2, period. We have, of course, none other than Serral. It's always a debate, right? Who's the strongest player in SC2? But when all the Koreans say that Serral is the strongest player, I think that's a pretty good guideline to go off of, because they, generally speaking, don't say those kinds of things lightly. Anyways, should be a really fun series, of course. This was played just a few days ago during a tournament called Stay at Home Story Cup, which I still giggle about. I think it's a great name. As you might be aware, Home Story Cup is a tournament that has been taking place twice a year for I think the last, I don't know, 6-7 years or so. Usually there's like a summer edition and then a winter edition, or like a, you know, like a spring or autumn edition, whatever you want to call it. Usually it takes place around this time of the year, or maybe like a month or two later. Regardless, obviously with the current world situation as it is, you know, they can't go ahead and do a Home Story Cup over in Krefeld in Germany. So instead they decided to move it online and call it Stay at Home Story Cup, which yeah, it's a clever little name. Anyways, this is going to be a ZVP. Should be a really fun one. A couple of you reached out on Twitter and mentioned that I should really go ahead and cast these games, because apparently they get really, really crazy. So I'm excited for it. If you ever see a really good game of StarCraft 2 that you think I would go ahead and cast as well for the YouTube channel, please let me know. The easiest way to get in touch is on Twitter. So it's at LowkoTV on Twitter. And yeah, I will always write down all of the recommendations of games that people recommend to me. And usually those are the ones that I try to prioritize first. It's really helpful, especially if you can include the tournament that the game was played in as well. The only tournament that I can't really cast games from is the GSL, so the Korean GSL, which is arguably speaking also the highest level tournament in StarCraft 2, but they sadly do not release their replay packs. Anyways, the first 3 minutes of this ZVP are over, and honestly, most of the time, Zerg versus Protoss, it's very, very, very much so the same. Looks like one little Zergling over here is trying to see if it can run in, but an Adept was already patrolling left and right. It is going to be that Stargate opener here from Neeb. Second Adept now also moving across the map with the, well, I guess it's the first one moving across the map, but the second Adept right now on that production tab will be able to hold the wall just fine. Now, this does mean that Serral can fly in the Overlord. Most of the time we see either an Adept into a Stalker or double Adept. Obviously, if it's not a Stalker right now, you can fly in the Overlord just fine. And while I don't think it's going to find the Stargate, it will find a Phoenix. So I guess that's pretty much all of the information that Serral really needs. Now, look at that, actually. That's a very quick Lair. So to put that in perspective, usually in ZVP, we see the Lair... especially Serral, actually, it's what I've personally been playing a lot. Against Stargate openers, usually he tends to go for a Roach Warren and then a Lair at the 4.5 minute mark. Second gas coming up right now as well. Okay, nice little bit of micro. Loses one drone so far, but I guess that's fine. Okay, Oracle is coming up here as well. I'm actually curious to see what he's going to use this Lair for. Could be like a Nidus Worm, or could be a... well, not so much a Spire, I suppose, right? So usually we see like... it could be a Spire. I've seen like some Muta openers against Stargate as well, but it's so risky because obviously Phoenixes, for all intents and purposes, counter those Mutalisk. We'll have to see. Okay, yeah, it's just going to straight up be a Hydra then. All right. So interesting approach here from Serral. Usually we don't see too much variety at this level of play, so he's just mixing it up, I suppose. Queens are going to be just enough, though, to get rid of all of those units. There's even a Spore Crawler in the mineral line, too. Maybe it's also the map. Generally speaking, this map does not really allow Zerg to go for a big timing attack. So say you want to go for like a Roach Hydra push. It's pretty difficult to do so because of like these tight choke points. So this is one of the few maps that actually features three of those ramps that you can actually you know, use to defend on. So not really a lot of aggressive timing attacks other than maybe like a Nidus Worm. But Nidus Worm's obviously a little bit risky, especially with these pylons already set up in the main base. Should not be a problem whatsoever here for Neeb to figure out what the Zerg is going for. It is just going to be a bunch of Hydras. Very interesting. This almost feels like a Heart of the Swarm build order. Not something I've really seen that much before. Well, I mean, we saw it years ago, but not so much recently. Hydras have gotten nerfed, of course, ever since. They were quite a bit stronger back in the earlier days of StarCraft 2. Now, that should be enough sentries and enough adepts here to defend just fine. Okay, so notice, by the way, this is completely skipping the Roach Warren as well. So he's just going to go straight up into Hydra Ling. Maybe it's a counter to what a lot of Protoss players are focusing on right now with, you know, obviously that Archon Immortal mid-game. The thing is, though, Hydras absolutely melt to Storm, so going super Hydra focused, always a bit of a gamble. Now here they go. They're just simply moving forward, target firing down. What? They're target firing down all of those sentries first? Most of the sentries are already gone. This is apparently a timing that's catching these the American Protoss player off guard just a little. Immediately, though, we do see a ton of drones on the back of this as well. So this was like a Hydra speed push? That was very odd. That was very odd. But you know what? He did manage to get himself those 3 sentries. Is that enough, though? 8 Hydralisk for 3 sentries. I'm not entirely sure if it's really worthwhile. It's not the biggest of deals, because obviously this does keep the Protoss player in check. And I actually kind of like it. Because most of the time, right, say Protoss wants to go for like a 3-base timing attack, they're really relying on that energy in those sentries. And right now, Neeb is going to have to warp in new ones if he really wants to go for a push. He needs to have like sentries for both like the Guardian Shield as well as Force Field, right? Because otherwise, you know, the Hydras will just shred through all of your units. I don't actually mind it. So this kind of forces Neeb to either like warp in those sentries again, which can be scouted really easily, so that would indicate a timing attack, or for Neeb to immediately tech up and then maybe even consider taking a 4th base. Interesting. Okay, anyways. While this is all going on, Neeb is getting himself a couple of his Archons. War Prism is coming up right now as well, and then we also see the Twilight Council researching Charge. In all honesty, you know what? I think what this comes down to, Serral's been doing this a lot over like the last year or so. He's just been playing different build orders almost every single game of a series. And this might not necessarily be the strongest build, but I can totally imagine that this is a build that he's practiced just to like mix in, you know what I mean? Like technically it might not be the one that you want to play every single game on the ladder, but it's a good idea to have in your arsenal of builds if you play in tournaments. Well, anyways, it's going to be that Hydraling Bane style going up against what seems to be Archon Immortal. Only 1 sentry here though. I guess he's going to go for a lot of Zealots. Does he have Storm yet? No. It's just going to be the Archons. Oof. This will all come down to Micro, though. If the Banelings can connect with the Zealots, then he's going to be in a pretty good spot, and that's exactly what happens here. Serral absolutely shutting this down, and now he can actually push forward as well with the Hydras because the sentries are no longer here. You don't want to run them into Archons, though. I guess that might just be a little bit too much Zerg. He once again does back off. Additional Zerglings are coming up, but I don't really like this timing anymore. Yeah, I think you need to go home, Neeb. Just try and take a 4th base instead. I think that's a much better choice. Alright. So the issue there was not so much that like his unit composition was significantly weaker or whatever. He just needed more stuff, right? And Serral sniping. Oh my god, if he gets the Prism, that's huge! Wow. Ugh. Yeah, Serral sniping those couple of sentries earlier did make that push significantly weaker because you can like, you know, force field this to all of eternity and prevent those units from coming in, especially when Zerg is not playing Ravagers, right? So, this apparently now triggers Serral to start moving out onto the map. He did obviously snipe the Prism just now, so that means he doesn't really need to worry about a whole lot of aggression. Is he gonna try and push up this ramp? Storm is not done yet? Yeah, without Storm being done, oh my god, Serral just marches up the ramp and wins. Alrighty, so map number 2 will take us to Everdream. Now, what I'm most curious about right now is whether or not Serral is going to execute the same build order again. I didn't really follow exactly what he was doing earlier, but I can imagine he left either 2 or maybe even all 3 drones in gas. So, the standard right now in StarCraft 2, the norm is to go hatch gas pool, mine 100 gas, and then pull 2 drones out of gas after starting up Zergling speed. I think that he may have very well left the drones in, or maybe at the very least left 2 in, to go for like a Lair that early on, right? So one of the reasons why normally we see a 4.5 minute Lair going up against Stargate is just because, well, that's when you happen to have enough gas to start up that Lair. Anyways, Neeb shouldn't be all too phased, but I can imagine it's a build order that he hasn't really seen all too much. Maybe it's a new standard though, we'll see. Everdream, generally speaking, a much liked map. I've heard no one really complain about it. I don't really know exactly as far as like statistics go right now if there's any of the 3 races that's favored. But generally speaking, I think all players are really quite enjoying this map. It's a little bit different than the others. So this is certainly a macro map, so it's pretty easy to go up to like 4 or 5 bases, but it's relatively small, right? And usually at some point we see players taking the bases in the center. So say Zerg takes this one over here, Protoss takes this one over here. They're actually pretty close to each other. So it creates some pretty interesting tensions. Because of that, most of the Zerg players that I've seen play on this map have been favoring Lurker styles, and I've also seen some Muta play as well. But Lurkers are just a little bit easier to control on a map like this. Also because there's not that many places for like run-bys and stuff. It's a little bit difficult to get in. Lurkers seem to be much better at like controlling those spaces, whereas on like the bigger maps, like for example Simulacrum as well, we see a lot of Zerg players favoring Banelings over those Lurkers instead. Anyways, Neeb, what are you gonna go for? Zerg versus Protoss is pretty much always the same for the first couple of minutes, unless Protoss really decides to mix it up. We do see Zerg every once in a while also go for like something very, very aggressive, but most of the time that really is not the case. I'm expecting Serral to pull the drones out of gas, but let's keep an eye out right here on the main base of the Finnish Zerg. 2 queens coming up. Actually, if we're talking build orders anyway. So he pulls 1 drone out of gas. Yeah, and then starts up link speed. Okay. So I don't know if this is what he did in game number 1 too, but I can imagine that's what it was. Okay. Anyways, as you might be aware, Serral actually likes to play this matchup a little bit differently as well as far as the build order goes than most of the other pros. There's like 2 camps, okay? First off, there's the camp right here of the build order that Serral is playing, where you go for the double queens before you take the 3rd base. He's actually going 4 queens right now. This is super safe. Huh. And then there's also the Zerg players out there that enjoy going for the hatch gas pool. And then after starting up the hatch gas pool, they ready the first drone after that into the gas, and then the second drone already to the 3rd base, and that one becomes the 3rd base. So this is a relatively late 3rd. Usually, actually, we see Zerg players taking it at about, I think this is gonna have to be a Lair again. Right? He's about at 100 gas right now. I'm not sure if it is. Yeah, there it is. Lair coming up. Huh. Okay, 2 adepts though. Dead shade in. Anyways, he decided to go for 4 queens before like any 3rd base or anything like that. This kind of looks like a 2-base Muta opener, maybe. In the meantime, though, on the other side of the map, once again, Neeb decided to go for the Stargate. I think he might very well decide to focus a little bit more on Phoenixes in this particular case, because Phoenixes are absolutely amazing against that Muta style. It could also be, like, Zerg has so many options though, right? Like, it could also certainly be a build order right now that's focused around, I don't know, like a Nidus Worm or something like that, or just like a straight up really aggressive timing attack. Now this is good. Neeb actually gets a couple of kills. Don't lose the Oracle though. If you lose the Oracle, this is completely not worthwhile. 2 drones. Overlord inside of the main base will confirm exactly what's going on. Did it see the extra Oracle actually in production as well? It looks like it did, yeah. So it does know exactly what's happening. Okay, so the Lair is done. What's the point of the Lair? Serral, your Lair is done. Roachwarren and... Roachwarren Infestation Pit? So, either a very quick hive or maybe... Swarm hosts? I mean, I highly doubt that it's actually going to be infestors. That would really not make a lot of sense. I think Neeb is with me here. Neeb is probably making the assumption as well that this is going to be a 2-base Spire opener. Well, right now he sees it, right? He knows that it's not. He already started up the 2nd Stargate, though. Phoenixes in general are absolutely amazing against, like, Mutalisk, right? Which is really the only viable option at that point for Zerg. So going for the 2 Stargates here is really, really clever. It is going to be a Nidus Worm as a follow-up, so I think it has to be Swarm Hosts. Although, yeah, it was scouted almost immediately there by Neeblet, so he decided to cancel it. And then, whoa, Serral just once again threw it down. This is a weird mind game right here, man. This whole series is a little bit strange so far. There's the Swarm Host coming up. And while Neeb decided to, or he saw it and you know, Serral decided to cancel it, right now the second Nidus Worm also does get spotted. Now, what exactly are you gonna do against those Adepts, though? Third base, by the way, still, you know, no workers there, right? Third Nexus is gonna finish up probably around the same time as any drones start mining over there, too. Okay, so where's the Nidus Worm gonna go up? Maybe over here? Maybe over here? I don't know. Neeb should be able to start countering this relatively easily. He only has one, yeah, he only has one Oracle right now, so that's not going to be enough. He does decide to pull a couple of the boys as well. And you know what? This build is a little bit questionable right now from Serral. I like the idea of mixing it up every game, but this seems like such a big commitment that's really not achieved very much yet. You can see worker-wise right now, Neeb is in an absolutely phenomenal position. He's at 53 workers here, 10 workers over the Zerg, which really never happens at this level of play at this point in the game. This could just be like a full-on all-in, though. Queens actually... Oh my god, the Queens are coming with this. Huh? Okay. Man, these top-level StarCraft 2 players have been playing some weird games recently. Remember that game that I casted off Sue? That was so odd as well. Now, these Phoenixes are going to be phenomenal, though. I mean, unless they decide to lift up these units instead of going after the actual Locust. They could have killed that so easily there. But yeah, he gets a couple of Queens instead. Apparently, Neeb feeling confident that he can just clean that up using his ground units. Zerglings, though, do manage to run into the natural right now. And Serral does have a couple of units over here as well, allowing them to give that vision, or allowing him to get that vision, rather, to get the Nidus Worm up. Nidus is going to finish here, but I mean, yeah, you're not going to... Everything is on cooldown. You're not going to really send anything in. 4 workers going down there in the grand scheme of things. Once again, another Locust wave does fly over. Decent defense so far here by Neeb, but he's forced to defend right now in a lot of different locations, and it's super easy to mess this up and all of a sudden like lose either like a base or an entire mineral line worth. Still, no real workers here, right? Serral is just on 45 drones. That's so few drones. When your supply count is even while playing Swarm Hosts, you know you're in a tricky position, because Swarm Hosts are ridiculously supply heavy and obviously not very supply efficient at all. I think that build did not really go the way that Serral had planned. He sort of made it into an all-in instead, knowing that the eventual push of Neeb would just go ahead and kill him. And rather than playing it out, he's like, you know what? I'm just going to tap out. GG. Alrighty, so 2 strange build orders here from Serral so far. First time around, it worked. But it still felt a little bit flimsy, because that was like 1 force field away from absolutely getting shut down. Second game, totally did not work whatsoever. But I like the fact that he's experimenting with different strategies. And actually, I would love to see Neeb also mix it up a little bit, but that's kind of the thing with Protoss, right? It's one of the critiques that I've been talking about quite a bit over at the live stream. Protoss really doesn't have a lot of variety in their mid game. So there's many different roads to going towards that Archon Immortal style, right? But they pretty much all lead towards Archon Immortal. You can sometimes go double Phoenix, but that's mostly if the Zerg player decides to play something a little bit differently as well. Well, in this case, I mean, obviously in that previous game, Neeb could go ahead and pull that off, but most of the time, Protoss has to go for that Archon Immortal style. I wish there was a little bit more variety. Like, Protoss is definitely not weak, Protoss is doing just fine, but I wish there was a little bit more variety, right? Because when you think about it, Zerg has so many more options in the mid game. You can go Roach Hydra, you can go Roach Ravager, you can go Hydra Lingbane, you can go Roach Lingbane, you can go Roach Swarm Host, you can go Swarm Host Nidus, you can go Lingbane Muta, you can go Quick Hive into Brute Lords. Like, there's so many good options available. And while Protoss does have a couple of options as well, at this level of play, Zerg just punishes it immediately if they go for something a little bit too, a little bit too out of the box. And yeah, basically you have to go that Archon Immortal style, unless you really want to like heavily cheese in the early game, or, you know, go like straight into Sky Toss or something like that. But I don't know, it kind of feels like Protoss, at least compared to both Terran and Zerg, is very limited in their options. And I don't have a solution either. I really don't have a solution, but I wish there was a little bit more variety there for the Protoss army, especially in the mid game. Like, remember when Protoss used to go for a lot of like Stalker Colossi openers? I mean, not very common, but ever since they made the Colossus primarily good against light units, it's really fallen out of favor. I mean, it's really popular, obviously, in the Terran versus Protoss matchup, but Against Zerg, yeah, it's just Archon Immortal, Zealot Storm. Every single game with a Prism. I can't really complain about it too much, I suppose, because I don't have a solution, but I wish there was a little bit more variety. Now, I've talked about this on stream actually quite a bit, and once again, it's going to be that Stargate opener, so no Twilights or Robos this series, because obviously this is match point. I've talked about it quite a bit over at the live stream, and a lot of people were like, Loko, why don't they bring back the Mothership Core? No, guys, Mothership Core sucked, okay? We don't actually want that. We really do not want the Mothership Core back, but it'd be fun if there was a little bit more that Protoss could do. Anyways, look at this. Serral waiting with the Overlord. Is he gonna go for a third base at a normal time, by the way? He's once again leaving 2 drones in gas. So this has to be like a 3.5 minute lair again, right? Does he? Yeah, he once again is going up to 4 queens. What a strange opener. So if Serral's playing this 3 games in a row, I suppose it's gonna have to be the new standard, right? Anyways, what I was trying to point out is that Serral was waiting here to see if it's gonna be Adept or Adept Stalker. And now that he knows that it's not gonna be an Adept Stalker, he's going to be able to fly in this Overlord relatively easily and figure out exactly what's going on. Once again, there it is. 3 minutes and 20 seconds on that lair timing. Okay. So, is this what he actually thinks is the best way to open right now against ZVP? I would love to hear his thoughts on this. Definitely will check out a couple more of the Zerg versus Protosses that Serral has played over the last couple of days. Because if he's playing this 3 games in a row, especially at this point, right? Like this is map number 3 of this series. It's the game decider. This probably is the build that he feels really, really confident about right now. I guess one of the advantages is that you get yourself those queens out so you can defend against these Stargate units without making too many spore crawlers. So these spores are technically pretty late. So what's he gonna do? Once again a Hydra Den? I guess it's once again gonna be a Hydra Den if I were to make a... Is it gonna be a... Yeah, there it is. There's gonna be a Hydra Den. Is it once again gonna be that Hydra speed push then? What a... I don't even know what I'm saying here. A Hydra speed push? Interesting. Alright, Robo is a follow-up, of course, for Neeblet. He's got himself a couple of Skytools units right now, so 1 Phoenix and then 2 Oracles. There's a Spore Crawler in the main base, though, and Queens are hunting down these Stargate units. Honestly, at this level of play right now, it's very uncommon to see any more than, like, 3 worker kills here for Protoss. You might be able to find an opener here at some point, but, you know, a couple worker kills really not that big of a deal. There it is. Once again, Hydra speed upgrade, Evolution Chamber. What a strange build. He's droning up pretty hard right now, though. Did make the Evolution Chamber, but didn't start up any upgrades there yet, so that almost feels like a fake Evo Chamber. Which, I don't know if that's a thing, but... If I was Neeb at this point... Oh, he's going melee this time around. Actually, maybe he did that as well in game 1. I wasn't entirely sure, but... feels like that one is not positioned properly. But anyways, Neeb obviously saw the... he saw the setup of structures here. He played against this earlier as well. This time around, though, I don't really see any Hydralisk yet. So I think that Serral is just using this as like a scare tactic right now. Yep, I think that's exactly what it is. He's droning super hard. He's just getting his Hydra upgrades pretty early here. But he's just droning super hard, trying to get that 3rd base fully saturated. 4th base already coming up here as well, and that should give Neeb all of the information that he needs. He just saw it immediately too. Excellent scouting there by him. 2 additional gateways going up inside of the main base, and the 3rd base will be fully saturated here as well for the American Protoss in just a second. There's that Templar Archives. Alright, so Neeb getting himself a pretty solid army composition here. He's actually going to try and test the waters. See what he can do against this. This was spotted by Zerg as there was a Zergling over at that watchtower. He really wants to try and get the kill right here on that base. Zerglings are coming up. A couple of Hydras are coming up here as well. I don't really know exactly if Neeb's going to be able to get too much done. Adepts decide to shade forward. But they cancel, of course. Mostly just used as like a retreating mechanism there for Neeb. This is going to allow Neeb or Serral right now to start mining off of that high-yield Vespian Geyser. So, Spire coming up right now. It's Hydraling Bane into a Spire. And this is what I mean, right? Like, look at this game or these games so far. Protoss quite literally just playing very, very similarly every single time. I guess there was double Stargate in game 2, but, you know, it's pretty much always the same. And Zerk right now going for something different again. This is so tricky for Protoss to deal with. Storm is coming up. But I guess this is going to be a heavy, heavy focus on Mutalisk here in just a little bit. As you can see, Serral already started banking up quite a bit of gas. And obviously, once you get that Hydraling Bane army, say, moving on the left and the Mutas on the right, there's a lot of potential there, as you can force the multitasking. Ooh, one High Templar gets sniped for free. Very expensive. You really don't want to lose one of those for nothing. I don't know if you would expect the Spire at this point, though. Like, these are some odd build orders that Serral is playing here, and I'm assuming at the very least he's feeling comfortable doing so. Maybe the passivity right now, though, is giving Neeb a bit of a heads up, right? Because Zerk has to be saving up for something at this point. So there's the Mutas. 13 of them are coming up. Looks like a 5th hatchery will also be planted down. Neeb playing very, very passively right now, and I think he wants to move out at this point. But I mean, yeah, there's 8 High Templar here. Great. But what exactly are you going to do if you don't have Archons or, say, like, Stalkers or a couple of, like, well, these are fake Phoenixes, but actual Phoenixes to gun down the units? Those 13 Mutas can deal a lot of damage. Now, here's the double or the double Phoenix. They do see the Mutas flying across the map, so it's really critical right now for the Protoss player to try and defend. Fleet Beacon gets planted down immediately. Now, obviously, he did technically see them with the hallucinated Phoenixes, but did he also actually notice them? That's the question. There was already a Photon Cannon in the mineral line, so that's a good preparation right there for Neeblet. But yeah, when there's this many Mutas, oh my god, he just taps out immediately. Serral obtains the victory straight up, as this aggression was not gonna slow down anytime soon, and I guess that Neeb completely misread what was going on in this game right here. Probably anticipating his opponent going into Lurkers, or maybe a quick hive with, say, like, for example, Brute Lords, right? Like, those are two very common follow-ups. So that would explain at the very least why we already saw that Fleet Beacon coming up. But yeah, those Mutas completely blindsiding Neeb there, and he decides to GG out straight up. Now, I'm really curious to hearing your thoughts down below in the comment section of this video. Do you think Protoss needs more variety in the mid-game of Zerk versus Protoss? Because I kind of feel like Protoss is really predictable, right? And there's little bits of variety here and there. I don't really know exactly what the solution would be either, but the strategies either feel really gimmicky. For example, when you're cheesing or, you know, you're winning with like Dark Templar or something like that. But it pretty much all leads towards Archon Immortal Zealot. And once again, I'm not suggesting it's too weak or not powerful enough. I think, you know, it's plenty powerful and it's plenty strong. It's definitely a very great way for Protoss to play the game. But it's just, yeah, it's just a little bit much of the same pretty much every single time, right? And if you compare it to all of the options that both Zerk and Terran have, it seems like Protoss might need a little bit more, although I have no idea what. If you have a suggestion, let me know down below. But for now, I very much so want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day, don't forget to smile, and I'll see you once again in the next one.